sunny day that we've had in almost a week. It's just been pissing rain and cold and more rain and everything like that. I was gonna try to get John with Heavyset Tactical on here with me, but he's just not really answering his phone, so figured I'd just do this on my own. Got the mini Huntsman out here with me. Been getting him out more and more and more to stretch his legs. He's almost 2 years old. He'll be 2 next month. So he's still just a young little guy, so gotta keep an eye on him quite a bit and tend to him. But usually he's good to go with just a shtick. If he got a shtick, he likes to watch me play. Hey, get out of that mud! Come on. He had to get in it anyways. But yeah, he's usually content with just a stick. He likes to watch me play Skyrim a lot, so I think Andy likes watching Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and stuff like that. So I think he's kind of becoming a medieval fantasy nerd like his daddy. But I'm gonna hike just a little bit more and see if I can get a few more people on here, and then I'll kind of start going into what the video is about. But things been going good on my end, just getting more things set up at the farm. Got a new chicken coop coming in soon, so we're gonna have like a big walk-in chicken coop, and we're gonna start trying to expand our chicken operation. We're gonna be doing some rabbits and stuff. We already got some rabbits, but we're gonna be getting more and have, you know, runs for both of them and everything like that. So it's gonna be a pretty cool setup. Looks like I got one person in here thus far, so I'm gonna kind of wait just a little bit longer before I kind of start getting into the meat and potatoes on this live stream here. Come on, little guy, come on. But yeah, so we got that going on. I am still kind of debating on shifting over to sheep instead of goats, but I don't know. If we start doing the rabbits, and we'll definitely have our meat covered. And of course, I kind of wheel and deal with one of the local farmers for some beef. We usually stuff a whole beef of cattle every year in our freezer and can just kind of live off of that for quite a bit. And of course, I'll try to stuff a deer or two as well. But so my day's going good. My day's going good. I just laid out some blocks and everything for the chicken coop and everything. Just getting things set up on the homestead. I got one more week of leave from work, so because we just had the new baby and everything, and I took a few weeks off to help my wife with that. All right, buddy. Hey, we got some running water here, so I'm gonna kind of pick you up. All right, come here, buddy. All right, looks like we got like 7 people in here, so I figured I'll just start getting into the. All right, setting you back down. I know you don't like to be held too much. I figured we'll start getting into the meat and potatoes on the video, and just let other people kind of creep in. But anyways, so I was just going to talk about some of my favorite knife brands, some things that I am looking forward to, and why I like some of these knives. So right off the bat, I'm just going to start off with, I think, honestly, a brand that I'm obviously associated with because I'm getting my designs made through them, but there is a reason why I went through them for my own designs, and that is Very Good Knife Company. So he's seriously one of my favorite brands. So if you guys don't know, I got my design, the Hawk, or not the Hawk, this is the Eagle, the big version here, being made by Very Good Knife Company. And so this is my design. It's like a Saks kind of survival kind of design, and it's going to be dropping April 25th. And then of course another design of mine that's also going to have a drop April 25th is the smaller EDC version, the Hawk. Now, I'm here in Missouri. I wouldn't mind being Arkansas. Honestly, if I didn't live in Missouri, I probably would pick Arkansas as the next state to kind of live in, but I live here in Missouri. But the Hawk here is also my design. But why do I like Very Good Knife Company? So let's just get into why I like Very Good Knife Company. Very Good Knife Company, I think, offers a lot of knife for a decent price that's handmade, but not... I like the simplicity of Very Good Knife Company. I think a lot of knives, sometimes in knife companies, sometimes they almost try to put too much into a knife. It's just like I've made the argument before too. You know, Very Good Knife Company, he does just kind of flat scales with kind of really good contouring to the edges, which I think is just perfect. I could just do that like ninja death grip and it doesn't bother my hand at all. I could just hold this knife all day long. And he does all of his knives like that. And you know, I think some companies, they try to put like such an elaborate Coke bottle shape onto some of these knives, and I feel like you could actually ruin the indexing of that. And then next thing you know, it starts feeling like it's almost a perfectly round handle, which is something you definitely don't want on something that you might be potentially chopping with. Because then you end up with like the Pouzon Wilderness Bowie scar on your arm. Which part of that was probably my fault too. But Very Good Knife Company is one of my staple brands, and I'm honestly, I've been just happy trying to collect all of his knives. I actually am going to be acquiring a couple more Very Good Knife Company knives. I got the First Strike, which is kind of his combat utility knife that he's had on his lineup for quite a while. I'm going to be getting one of those. I'm changing it up a tad bit. I think on the website it's labeled as a hollow grind, but I'm getting it in a high saber. And he's actually going to be doing some Cerakoting. So I'm getting it in 80 CRV2, and I'm going to have it Cerakoted, and I'm going to do green scales on it and like a burnt bronze, kind of dark bronze kind of Cerakote on the blade and tang and everything. So I think it's going to be kind of cool combo. And then I also, I've been kind of throwing out this idea for a while, but he has the Adventure Junior, which is like the really thin but smaller profile overall blade. Adventure, and then he has the regular Adventure, which the Adventures are kind of his main staple blade. But the older Adventure is the older Adventure is, you know, 3/16 thick. And so I've been throwing out the idea of, hey, make it the same profile as the regular Adventure, but use 5/32 stock instead of 3/16, kind of like the Hawk does. And so we're going to give that a go. And I think I'm going to just call it the Adventure Light. Hey, little guy. Yeah? Here, let's find you another stick. Got my almost 2-year-old son out here with me. Here, you want me to dust your hand off? Okay. What's the best big blade you've used? So best might be kind of a odd term because I mean there's a lot of big knives that you know can do different things better, and so you know just because one might chop better might not mean that it can do, you know, everything else better. So I think might be easier way to answer that might be what's my favorite big blade that I've used. So right now, if you're gonna just be looking for a new big knife and you want something that you know is like simple, that's gonna work and will last you a lifetime, honestly, I'm gonna throw out the SE Hungless as a solid option. I'm gonna throw out the Skrama, the Varus Stolica Skrama 240. I think those two are just absolutely amazing blades. One of my favorite ones, and they're not exactly easy to get, but if you can get one, I highly recommend it, is the Work Tough Gear V44X and the Work Tough Gear Kodiak. Work Tough Gear Kodiak and the Bear Claw, I think, are both also great knives as well. And yes, the Kodiak is really nice. I haven't ever owned a Kodiak. I've been wanting a Kodiak for a long time, but I don't personally own one. I have the Bear Claw, which is very similar, but it's more of a clip point to it than the Kodiak. But one of these days I'm going to end up grabbing a Kodiak, but I just haven't been able to find one. And sadly, I've actually considered trying to just get one used, because I don't really care. Like, especially with a bigger knife, I don't really care. And that might be something I might go into on this live stream too, in a bit, is kind of a little more detailed thing on the bigger knives. But sadly, a lot of the people that's selling them on the used market, they're trying to sell them for more than what they bought them for brand new. And, you know, to be totally honest, I kind of refuse to do that. I've seen people try to sell the Work Tough Gear V44Xs on eBay for, you know, $600, and it's like, yeah, to hell with that. Like, it's a cool knife, but it's not that cool. Now, I will be honest too, my kind of top off on knives, you know, because people will be like, oh, that knife ain't worth that much money and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to say it like that, because I think that, you know, there are things that's worth that much money. There's guns that's worth, you know, way more money than what I'd ever spend. But, you know, just because I won't spend that much money doesn't mean that they're not necessarily worth that much, if that makes any sense. So, like, my kind of top off price wise for knives, I'll be honest, when it starts getting in that like 400 plus range, I kind of really start like thinking maybe I won't buy it, type of thing. And like, that's just kind of where I top off, because once it starts getting that much money, then it's like, okay, I could buy a gun for that much money, you know. LT Wrights are always been a great knife. So I've always liked LT Wrights. I don't like how smooth they do their handles. They like make their handles just like glassy smooth and everything, and I don't really care for that. Bark River's really bad about that too. And some people really like it, I guess, because they keep doing it, and so somebody somewhere likes it. I don't really care for that, but LT Wrights have always been just a great staple knife. And, you know, if you honestly like one of their handles, and go with it. I wish they would like bead blast their handles and kind of give them a lot more texture, because this is just me, but me being out in the woods and doing farm stuff and homestead stuff, and, you know, even with my job, I'm not going to tell people where I work, but I do work at a company where I make guns, and, you know, I'm working with my hands and stuff like that. So I got rough, you know, hands, and I don't mind having a lot of texture. I don't like knives that feels like they're going to just slip out of my hands and stuff. Some people, I guess, do. James said, I really wanted to avoid the choil on the bear claw. Not saying it's wrong choice, just iffy on them. Already have a few knives of choils. So I've always have had the same opinion on choils that I've had for a while, and that is, I both like and hate choils. I think some knives really executes choils well, and some knives I think absolutely does not need a choil. One knife that's always frustrated me with the choil, and it's almost a useless choil too, is I've always been a fan of the SE3, but that they do not need a choil on that damn knife. Yeah, the walkabout is really cool. If you want to, here's the thing, just because he doesn't have it in stock on his website, you could always email him and put an order and he will make you one on order. So I did a review on the Walkabout. I really liked the Walkabout. I ended up giving my Walkabout to John with Heavyset Knife Co. just because John's given me so many knives. I kind of felt like I needed to give him something in return, for one. But two, I got my Eagle here, which is roughly about the same size. Well, it's a little bigger than the Walkabout, but it's still in like what I would consider the same size category. And it's like, okay, now that I got my Eagle, I'm not ever going to really use the Walkabout much. So that's why I ended up giving it to John, because the Eagle is kind of my baby now, type of thing. And, you know, that's something else to maybe consider too, is if you like that sack style blade, and the Eagle has a much wider blade than the Walkabout too. But if you like that, you might just wait for the Eagle to drop, which will be April 25th. But to be fair too, the Walkabout is an amazing knife. And that's the thing too, is every knife I've tried from Very Good Knife Company, I like them. Like, there's some I like more than others, but I like every one that I've tried thus far. Let's go into another brand that I really like. So another brand that I really like, or both, yeah. If in doubt, get both. Another brand I really like is the Primitive Bear Knives. He does amazing work. So if you guys don't know, check out Alan with Primitive Bear Knives. He's both on YouTube and Instagram, and he makes some really good knives. I have appreciated his blades for a long time. Hey, get out of that mud puddle, buddy. Sorry. But so a few of the models that I really like, he has the Hunter ZDC, which I think is a really awesome blade that he makes. I think it's one of his staple blades that he does. I know he produces quite a few Hunter ZDC. And so another one that I've done is the the Minuteman. I've done a review on that one recently. I actually just sent my Minuteman to Scab with Choir Boys Outdoors. So be sure to keep an eye out for that, because Scab will be testing out the Minuteman. And I actually recently, it's still on its way, but I kind of wheeled and dealed and got a AWOL, which my twin brother got an AWOL, which made me convinced that I need to get the AWOL. And honestly, I think I like it better than even the Minuteman, which the Minuteman is amazing, but I like that kind of, Scab is top notch. Like, I think Scab is really cool. But the AWOL, it's kind of like a more camp size classic K-bar look, and so I'm like really awesome. I really am excited to get that AWOL. So one guy mentioned, I think he's making Junkyard Fox new version of the Snake Eater. So I'm going to make a correction there. It is not Primitive Bear Knives that's making Junkyard Fox's knife. The guy that's making Junkyard Fox's knife is the Bear Force Knives. Bear Force Knives is making the Snake Eater for Junkyard Fox. So be sure to check out Bear Force Knives. He actually does some really good work. And Very Good Knife Company is in the house. How are you doing, Jacob? Jacob, I was just talking about you. We're kind of talking about some of my favorite knife brands. And of course, you know, first and foremost, you got brought up, and it's why, you know, I picked you for making my own designs. Come on, buddy. Hey, I know. Okay, my little guy wants to hang out here by the water and stuff. Here, let me kind of go back here and answer some questions. I kind of got slammed with a bunch of stuff. One guy asked, I don't think you've ever I've ever seen you with a Bark River. Do you like them? So, I mentioned Bark River earlier, and I've tried a few Bark Rivers on my channel, but honestly, I'm just not a big Bark River fan. I've always been kind of really hit and miss on convex grinds. So it's either I really like them or I really hate them. And most of the times I hate them. And Bark River, their quality control, I think, is like really hit and miss. I've seen some people get some great Bark Rivers, but I've seen some people get Bark Rivers that they barely touch it on wood and it's chipping out and crap. And also, I don't like the fact that they make their handles just glass smooth. I don't like that. I had the Bravo 1.25 at one point, and, they marketed that as like a military knife. And I'm like sitting there thinking the whole time, like, okay, I don't want a knife that slips around and rotates in my hand because it's glass smooth if I'm using it for like a military potential combat knife. So, I know a lot of people like Bark River. I'm just not a big fan of Bark River personally. But, if you like them, then that's awesome. So, I was mentioning Primitive Bear Knives. I've always wanted one of his bigger choppers, but he just doesn't really do much choppers. And sadly, there's not a big market out there for choppers. There's not a lot of knife makers doing choppers, honestly. Like one of these days, when I can convince Jacob with Very Good Knife Company to do it, I think it would be really awesome to do like a 10 or 12 inch version of the Eagle. Maybe call it the Screaming Eagle, or something. We'll conjure up a name, but he's not quite set up for that yet, so hopefully we can get set up for that in the future. Oh, got the little guy with me. He likes to get little rocks and throw out in the water here. I got a little creek kind of running along here and stuff. Yeah, this is where I live stream instead of just sitting at a desk. So, thus far I mentioned Very Good Knife Company, Primitive Bear Knives. Trying to think. Sometimes I get like a whole list. Oh, big knives are great. I like big knives. I tell people all the time that, big knives, even if you don't really feel like you need them, they're still just so fun. I don't know if I would use Nitro V on a 10-inch Eagle. I would probably just use some good old trusty and crusty ACR V2. And actually, that was kind of a topic I kind of briefly mentioned earlier, but I'm gonna kind of get into it now. So I see some people constantly trying to say like, oh, I want like a Magna Cut 10-inch chopper, I want a CPM3V 10-inch chopper, and blah 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 blah. And honestly, I don't know if I would pick one of those steels for like a big chopper, for a few reasons. One, to have that steel reliable, you're going to have to cut down the HRC level and make it softer so it can withstand that kind of impact, especially on like a bigger chopper knife. But then the advantage of it is not really much more than like what you get out of just your good old classic carbon steels. But then also the price just astronomically goes through the roof. And honestly, I find that like for just a bigger chopper knife, Outdoor Analyst mentioned A2. A2 is a great steel. Love that steel. Outdoor, one of these days, you need to try the Schwarz Knives LT5. It's an A2 tool steel, and I think you'll absolutely love it. It's honestly, in that size range, one of my favorite knives. So CPM3V, it would make a great chopper steel, but then, like I said, you'd have to like cut back on it some to have it hold up to that kind of abuse. And honestly, in my personal opinion, once you start getting into a bigger chopping knife, I just don't really feel like going to like a super steel really gives you that much of an advantage. Like, I think your super steels kind of has more of an advantage when you have smaller and or more mid-sized blades. But the moment you start going into like bigger knives, I just don't really see that much of an advantage. And so I personally would say if I was going to go with just like a big chopper, I would just go with ADCRV2 or you know, A2, kind of like Outdoor Analyst said, or like a handful of just your good old crusty carbon steels. And Outdoor, if you ever want to just borrow my Schwarz, I'll send it your way sometime in the future if you want to just try it before you buy type of thing. But yeah, the Schwarz LT5 is an amazing knife. I was kind of talking about knife brands and stuff and brands that I like. One that I will throw out that's been kind of a staple on the channel for a long time is just good old SE knives. And I've kind of had, you know, back and forth with SE knives for quite a while, but you know, SE knives, I think they're offering something great out there for people to get started into the knife world. And so, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, SE, you know, crappy 1095, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, but it's also kind of nice to have a knife company out there producing American-made knives that's actually fairly decent for, you know, $100 to $150 or so, or give or take, versus, you know, if everybody used CPM3V or MagnaCut and blah, 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 then every knife out there would be, you know, $300-400, which just kind of makes it annoying for especially somebody that's not out there, you know, on a regular basis, or just using it all the time, or just somebody trying to get started and stuff. You know, it looks like we got a guy from Russia. One guy was asking earlier if I'm in Kentucky. I've said it quite a few times. I'm here in Missouri, so this part of Missouri that I'm in is kind of goes from hills and hollers to open flat fields like really quick. So it's kind of a mixed bag where I'm at. If you guys know anything about Missouri, the state gets really flat and farm ground like. The farther north you go and the farther south you go, it gets more into like the Ozark Mountains and stuff. So I'm kind of like right on the edge of where it kind of transitions to both, basically. All right. I don't like people spamming the same thing over and over and over again. So if you're going to keep doing that, then I'm going to just block you. Sorry. But because then it makes it hard for other people to actually have like a conversation and stuff. And I probably do need to do some more sharpening videos. I just don't. I've done a couple. Now my sharpening technique has been updated since then, but I just don't really know if a lot of people would even care to see it. But it also kind of depends on what I'm sharpening too. And so like, for example, like some of my mid-size and smaller knives, I'll use my I got a Work Sharp table sharpener. Not the belt thing, but it's just the stones that you could actually set the angles on and stuff. I'll use that and get it to where it's like slice and paper really good, and then I'll hit it on a leather strop. Is essentially what I do for like my smaller stuff. And then my bigger stuff and my axes, a lot of times I've been finding myself just using an axe puck. Even on like a big knife, I'll just use an axe puck. And to be totally honest, for like my bigger knives and like my choppy knives and stuff, you know, I don't really even care if it gets to like hair shaving sharp. Like, I get it good and just like paper slicing sharp. and just kind of that more utility rough kind of edge on there. But you know, I just don't really care if it's like just balls to the wall hair shaving sharp on a 10-inch blade, just because it's kind of more of a beater, just smack it around type of blade too, if that makes any sense. Then hey little guy, you still want to just keep throwing rocks in the water? Yeah, I think he's okay with just throwing rocks in the water, huh? So, you know, earlier I mentioned the Schwarz LT5. That is honestly one of my favorite knives that I've had in the past little while. I'm really looking forward. Oh, come on, buddy. Hey, get out of the water. He just walked right into the water and his feet are probably soaked now. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Hey. I know, buddy. I know. Here. Come on, buddy. Let's go. Here, I'll get you a new stick. New stick. But, I've totally lost track of where I was going with this whole conversation. That's a fun part about doing a live stream out in the woods with a kid is you kind of get lost on your direction a little bit. Another brand that I actually do like, I don't know if I put them in like my top favorite brands, but I've actually been kind of a Demco fan too. I really like the Demco folders. The little shark cub is honestly my favorite little folder. And the free reins and or the Armigers are also pretty nice for the money. I do wish that they did like a full like a true full tang fixed blade, and I think that might be coming in the future with Demco, but for now they kind of do kind of a SRK style knife. And then of course, you guys know I did that Slick Knives, the Hunter 5. I was actually really impressed with that one, that 14C28N. And I've actually said this before to other people. I don't know if I've like made a public announcement or anything on my channel, but in all reality, when I test out 14C28N or like AEBL or Nitro V, and especially when they're done right, I honestly like those steels better than I do even Magna Cut. So that's just kind of my honest opinion. Do I like any of the new Tops models? So I've always been kind of back and forth on Tops. One of my longtime favorite models from Tops was the Silent Hero and Silent Hero 4. I really liked those two. The new models, I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of Tops models, they're just kind of really extremely hit and miss with me. Like, I don't think Tops is necessarily bad quality or anything. It's just their models are just a little sometimes wonky, and their handles can be really wonky. Come on, buddy. Hey, stay out of the water. Come on. Here, let's go. Here. Yeah, buddy, that won't come. Here, we'll grab you another stick. Oh, sorry, but here, let's go. Let's go. Doing a quick little run, getting away from the water. That's something else too. If you cannot grab your kid or your wife or something and actually go on a run, then you're wrong. So fix yourself. Here, buddy. Hey, come on. Come on. But so on the new Tops models, back to that real quick. There's one model that they actually got that I thought was kind of cool. what is it? I can't remember the brand or the name of the model, but it's like a, it almost has like an Egyptian Kopesh looking blade shape on it, which I think is really cool. That one I think would be kind of interesting to try. Outdoor Analyst asks, any thoughts or ever used a Winger blade? So I really like the style of Winger. I like his kind of simplistic, just, you know, user knife style, but I've never honestly have handled one. But I will say that John with Heavyset Tactical has gotten one, and he kind of thought that the edges and everything was really thick on it, which sometimes is an issue that I've seen with some knives. Is, and the problem is with that too is you have like two extreme cases going on. Is you'll have some people that's like, oh, you only need like a 5 thou edge on a knife, which is for any real woods use is ridiculous. You would just mess it up. But then you get the other case that'll be like, oh, well, we're going to put like a 40, you know, thou thick edge on a knife or something like that. And it's just kind of like ridiculous in that way too. And so I try to find some things that are just a good balance. But I did hear a few times that the Winger blades were pretty thick on the edges, which that was my issue with the Winkler knives, is they were just so thick on the edge that honestly they were butter knife sharp. Like they weren't really functional at all. And that's from trying a couple Winklers, and I've just gotten to where I just won't buy a Winkler because like I think they look cool, but they just they're just not well finished in my opinion. Oh yeah, I had the Winkler. It was the Winkler Huntsman. I bought it because it was called the Huntsman. I thought it looked kind of cool. And, you know, it was a smaller blade. It was like, you know, probably a good little, you know, 3¼ inch, you know, what I would consider decent little EDC blade. But it was so thick. It had a thicker edge than even like a freaking SE Hungles. Like my SE Hungles actually had a thinner edge on it than it did. And it's like, okay, if it's that small of a knife, then the only thing it has going for it is potentially being slicey. And if it's not even slicey, then it's just like crap, basically. So I ended up sending that Winkler back. I didn't like it at all, and I felt like it had a few other issues with it too. And so I packed it right up and sent it back and got my money back. Because it's like, okay, if it's that thick of an edge, I'd have to like damn near regrind the whole thing just to make it decently functional. But okay, actually, let's kind of go into a different direction here for a moment. So does anybody have any questions on the Eagle or the Hawk? Like, do you guys have any questions on, you know, who, what, when, where, why, steals, anything like that? So just kind of explain them. So the Eagle, obviously my design. It's what I wanted was like a modernized sax. And so, you know, as you guys can see, it's kind of like a modified, modernized sax. High saber grind, good old crusty and trusty 80 CRV2. This one's an 80 CRV2. The Hawk will be in Nitro V. So this one is 6½ inch blade. I got denim blue micarta handles on this one, but it will also be available in red and green. The handle, obviously I got medium large hands, but it still has enough space that I can kind of choke back on, do some chopping and stuff. The blade is right at 2 inches wide, so it's a very wide blade, so it's gonna have some cleaver type ability too, which a nasty tip on there. The Hawk is gonna be in a different steel. The Hawk is the smaller EDC version, and this one's been out for a little while. We're just doing another drop on them, and of course with Very Good Knife Company, if he has a knife that you want that he doesn't have in stock, you can always hit him up and he'll make you one. So just order one and he'll make you one. But the Hawk will be in Nitro V, and these are 5/32 thick, 3.5 inch blade, which I really like. Give me a full handle to grab onto. If you like his adventure handle, I used his adventure handle for the handle shape, and then I just put a sack style blade on it. So there's that. And of course this one's full flat grind, so it just makes it really slicey. Enjoy that good old Nitro V. Like I said, I actually like his Nitro V better than I do even Magna Cut. I got a handful of knives in the same size that's in Magna Cut, and honestly I like his Nitro V even better. That's just my opinion. Some people will, I don't know why anytime you question Magna Cut, then I did that one rant video where I was like kind of questioning Magna Cut, and I had just like whole spams of comments, and it was almost like I committed blasphemy. And it's like these people were just getting on there and just like reciting like all the like mantra of Magna Cut, and it's like, okay, yeah, everybody's heard it. You go to Blade Show, and you know, I went to Blade Show once, and honestly I don't know if I'll go to Blade Show again, because I think it's kind of gay. Like maybe if I was selling something or helping Jacob out with Very Good Knife Company or something like that, I might go to Blade Show. But other than that, I don't know if I'd go, because I went there and it's like every billboard is just like Magna Cut, Magna Cut, Magna Cut. Ours is 63.5 HRC Magna Cut, you know, HRC 64 Magna Cut. And it's just like, okay, who cares? Like, and that's something else I think is kind of a little ridiculous too, is some of these people, I've seen people in comments before too, and they'll make like this big deal, and it's like, I just couldn't use that knife at all, like blah blah blah, because it's 63.5 HRC instead of 64. It's like, okay, like, dude, in real world use would never notice the difference in that. Like, never. It's just people are, you know, stupid. I guess one of these days, after the like SHTF situation, oh yeah, it is. It's always just next big thing. And you know, the crazy thing is about the Magna Cut cult too, is they won't even give a shit about it the moment they come out with some new steel that's quote the new super steel, and you know, it's at 65 HRC or 66 HRC instead of like 63 or 64. And it's so stupid. Like, you're just gonna, you know, after the collapse of America or something, you're just gonna see a skeleton like laying there holding a knife in hand, and it's like, if it was only 64 instead of 63, I could have survived or something. Like, really stupid like that. But and you're right, splitting slices, it's all marketing. They're just gonna label something new and try to resell it, essentially. And outdoor analyst, what you don't want your beast of a knife and Magna Cut at 64. Oh, you know, I agree. Anything, honestly, I think just good old crusty steels, anything bigger than just my small EDC fixed blades, in all honesty. Like, I love even Nitro V and AEBL. But I would say definitely anything over like 5-6 inches, I wouldn't want that steel in it. Like, I think it'll still hold up great, but honestly, once it starts getting bigger and, requires, potentially more sharpening when you're like beating the shit out of it, like, I just would prefer that good old crusty steel. The Eagle will be going for, so right off the bat, before I say the price, just note that Very Good Knife Company is one-man shop and he's hand making every knife. So, the price kind of reflects that. But the Eagles will be going for $400 and the Hawks will be going for $200. So just kind of throwing that out there, which for the quality and it being a handmade knife, I actually think that's pretty fair. I mean, I've known, some production companies, even like Reef, that are charging more than that for some of their knives. But well, and at a certain point, splitting slices, it's like, okay, just because the HRC is higher doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Like, I think a lot of people don't really comprehend that too, is I would take a guy that's making knives and like 60 HRC that he has his heat treat spot on, than some guy that's just selling bullshit that's like, oh, I'm doing like 65 HRC, blah, 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 and I'm just cranking up the numbers really high. And it's like, yeah, you can crank up the numbers really high on anything. I could take a piece of rebar and crank up the numbers really high, but doesn't mean that it's worth a shit, And this is just me personally too, but I don't really like my knives feeling glassy. It's why I've kind of turned back on crew wear. Like, I was trying crew wear for a little while and it feels so glassy to me. I just don't really care for it that much. And the more I use crew wear, the more I just don't like it, honestly. So, I mentioned the Primitive Bear Knives Hunters EDC, and I have 3 of them. So, just to let you guys know, I enjoy the Primitive Bear Knives quite a bit. I have 3 of the same model. One's in ADCRV2, one's in A2, and one's in crew wear. And honestly, the mass of people would tell you that the crew wear one is probably the nicer of the 3, but in all honesty, I think it's the one I like the least. And it's not that there's anything wrong with Primitive Bear Knives crew wear, because I've tried a few knives in crew wear and I find I just have the same kind of opinion on it. It's high hardness and kind of glassy feeling and just doesn't really do it for me. But that's just me too. If it works out great for you, then that's awesome. But well, guys, I'm just kind of rambling here, and I got kind of this nice little creek here with my little boy here. Where is he? Yeah, he's right there. He's still playing in rocks and sticks and water and stuff. So I think I'm going to call it good. But thank you all for hopping on here. And I kind of rambled and didn't really go in the direction I wanted, but it don't matter. I have fun doing these with you guys anyways. So, oh, he's saying bye-bye. Well, you all, thank you all. And actually, I'll finish up. The Eagle and the Hawk will be dropping April 25th. So if you are interested in one of those and you want like a sack style blade, be sure to check out Very Good Knife Company. Also, guys, be sure to check out the Outdoor Analyst. He has one of my Hawks incoming, so he's going to be doing his own independent review on it. So be sure to check him out. But with all that being said, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless.